Hi everybody, thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive. Greetings dear ones, I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. There are so many messages that we have given over the years. And each time it begins, and each time my partner sits in the chair, he's unaware of what's coming. But he's often presented with emotions. And the emotions come from that which is the other side of the veil and often corresponds with the kind of message that is going to be given. And if it's going to be scientific, there will be a certain kind of emotion. If it's going to be informational, a certain kind of an emotion. But when it's going to be about the love from the other side of the veil to you, he knows it. And that's what this is. We go from channelings which are filled with revelation, history, beauty, to ones that are simply loving, with no agenda of teaching. This is an exposition of who you are. And to do this correctly, I want to tell you this. Again and again, I've said this. You need to hear it now, again. Those of you in the chairs need to hear it. I know who's here. Spirit knows who's here. The creative source who made you knows who's here. You do not live in some kind of vacuum. And yet it feels that way, does it not? It feels like you are surrounded by yourself and that's it. And we've said it over and over. This is the situation that you create as a human being. The circumstances of being linear. That it's just you, one body. And as you walk around, it's just you. But that is not the case at all. The soul that you have, that you call many things, the higher self, that which is grander, the innate, goes way beyond that which walks around in biology. There's pieces and parts of you that are connected to every single other human on earth. There are pieces and parts of you that are connected to the other side of the veil. You belong to what is called the soup of God, a group, not just of entities, a group that is the fiber of all things. The piece of God that is in you, the section of God that is in you, is connected to all things. And that hides so completely from you. It hides so much that those of you in sorrow and depression, frustration, will go into the corner by yourself, never understanding that there are so many with you, never understanding the connection you have to the other side of the veil. It's always there. The energy of consciousness on this planet literally has dictated the closet you're in. The teaching that you've had even since birth has dictated who you think you are. And who you are is so much bigger. That's been our message for so many years. And getting you to realize it is what the channelings are all about. And so we do it yet again, in a different way. But all of the things that we do are slowly graduating into clearer and clearer metaphors. I'm going to give you another one tonight. So profound this could be for you, if you let it. If you let it. It's more than a story. Much more. And every single piece of it means something else. And that is the way teaching works. You peel the onion of revelation of what is being said in my partner's language into something that becomes what is felt and actionable with you. Actionable is a term we use which means applying to the reality of your life. Something that is actionable for you is more than you listening. It is you becoming. As I tell this story about a human who has a vision. Visions are interesting. And you would define vision differently from person to person. But let's define it for this story. The human being who steps out of three-dimensional reality for just a few moments and sees things not in his or her world. A vision, a presentation of a grand truth with things that hide, things that are revealed, and things that you can revisit later in your memory. Some of the prophets who walked this planet that were the most profound had visions, even before they began, of who they would be, what would happen to them. This is a vision of one human, a human who has no name, a human who stands in front of a door in this vision. And it's an enormous door. And on the title, on the door, the title of the door, on a sign, it says, "The Library of Self." A funny term, to have a library of self. But the human who opens this door knows that inside there will be a great deal to learn. A library would indicate volume after volume of information. Of self would indicate to the individual that it might be personal, if the self was of the human who opens the door. The human doesn't open the door. The human calls for a guide to open the door. Now, this is because in this vision, it is necessary to have an outside source reveal for the vision. And so in comes a nameless guide with an enormous key ring. This particular guide will then accompany the human in this library, because what the human is about to see will require more doors, more unlocking, more revelations, more metaphors, and a little mystery. The guide opens the door. Now here is a metaphor where the guide is not talking to the human yet. It's understood that the guide shows up with a key because the human wants to get in. The door is unlocked. And as it's opened, it's obvious it has not been opened for a very long time. The door's hinges squeak with age. A dim light is there, but the light starts to increase as the human goes in. Without an apparent switch or torches or anything you might expect to create the light, the human arrives and the light is turned on. And immediately the human does not see a library with shelves or books, but a hallway with more doors. And the doors have names on them of things you would expect in a library, subjects to be discovered, to be examined. There is no necessarily order in this hallway. The human can start anywhere. But the human in question with this vision sees the labels. And the first one is how things work. That is really interesting. You might have even labeled it physics or science or chemistry. It's how things work. You see some of the other labels on the other doors. There's one called history, one called past. There's one called relationships. There's subjects. And in every library, he doesn't know what to expect. Behind each door, could it be a giant room filled with books, information? The library of self. He motivates immediately toward how things work, looks at the guide gets out the key. Now, they didn't exchange any words, and there was no permission. May I go in? There was none of that. There was, guide, would you please open the door? There was none of that. He simply looked at the door, and the guide arrives with the key. The door is open, and a vast room is revealed. How it works, literally, is all of the processes of the universe, all of the physics, all of the chemistry, even the multidimensionality of entanglement and beyond, consciousness that becomes physics, graduate planets, how it works. Thousands of books, balconies of books, ladders that would reach seemingly to the sky with a light. And he realizes, I'll never get through this. I'll never get through this. The reaction is interesting to the human who looks at it and says, it's overwhelming. I don't think I'll begin. And yet the things that are closest to him on the ground floor seem to be germane, or that is to say, relevant to his life. How things work for him, for her, in this human. And the human begins to read certain things and finds, oh my goodness, I never knew this. That explains this. Wow, think of the things in this room. If I could only stay here. In the vision, there is an assumption of a time that is going to end. In other words, the clock is ticking for the vision, and he can't stay very long. And so the human knows that there is no time to study everything, but the vision says it's all there. The human wants to go to some of the other rooms. If there's time, I'll come back. This one is absolutely fascinating. It's all about how things work, and some of these things explain what has happened to me. How things work is not just physics and chemistry. Wow, it's intertwined with my life on how things have happened physically for me in this lifetime, what it is. Can you imagine such a library that touches on the core of what you've been through from your birth to now? You're overwhelmed with the fact that all was known and is in a book. He leaves the library, closes the door, and it's locked. Now, there is a symbolism here that says that the human is only allowed to look at one library at a time. That symbolism is that the human is linear. still linear. In this vision, still linear. But as the human begins to open the doors, he realizes that even that is starting to change. Could it be that the human is changing even as the library is examined? That's something to think about. He peeks at another door which says history. He's not really into a lot of history, but he knows that beyond that door there are things that no one knows. Some things that have been mysteries forever. He looks at the label on the door, and the guide opens the door. Again, he enters. A light starts to come with him as he steps around, and he starts to see another library, segmented into areas, civilizations that he's never heard of. The ones he has heard of is one section, the ones he's never heard of in other sections. And there are section after section after section, civilization after civilization, names he doesn't know, writing he doesn't recognize. Phenomenal. The ones he does recognize, he sees. He recognizes the words of the civilizations that he knows about. And he starts to read. And he says, I never learned that in school. I didn't know that. Look at this. They were here before these and those, and wow. This is an amazing thing. Things that go beyond anything that I've ever learned in school are right here. Right here. Again, he's cognizant of the clock. He realizes there are so many rooms. There are huge libraries to see. Oh, there are so many volumes, thousands, tens of thousands, describing civilization, history, how things work, how he's related to all of it. He exits this library and goes back into the hall and sees the next room is called the past. Oh, what's the difference between history and the past? He's about to find out. He looks at the label on the door and it opens. The guide is there with the key. Different keys, different doors. The light follows him in because of his presence as a human. And then he sees it. Not books, but crystals. And each crystal has its own story. And he realizes, just from the training that he has had as an old soul, he has entered the library of the cave of creation. And in this is not history, unless you call his, her history. It's the history of the human. Each crystal represents a lifetime on the planet. Like some other metaphors we've given, other caves, he touches the crystal and immediately is given the story of himself in another time. She has another name, this human. He has another name, this human. There is another gender. One time a man, one time a woman. They're not lined up in any order. They're all the same size, and there are thousands. Overwhelmed he is, she is, with the profundity of what is there. It occurs to this human that they have been here forever, as long as Earth has allowed humans to be here. There's a crystal for every lifetime. We once gave you a metaphor, a puzzle. And it involved Jason and the cave. And in that, the human called Jason was so enamored with touching the crystals that he never got out. He spent his life touching crystals to find out who he used to be. That's how attractive this is. But she didn't spend that long, because there were more. There were more things to show and tell. I'll come back here if I can. It's fascinating. Just a few crystals that were touched brought her into a lifetime with all the facts and the people, the relationships were there. It's almost like the human was living it again. You've gone from books to crystals. You've gone from how it works on paper to touching a crystal and having other visions within a vision. The further you go, the more doors that are open, the more you become multidimensional outside of linearity. Out in the hallway, more doors, more labels. There was one that was attractive, and yet it wasn't. I'll just go there right now. The label on the door: death. Do I go there or not? What does it mean? Is this vision someplace where I'm going to die? Behind the door, is there an indication of how long I last? Doesn't have a very good name to a human being, does it? Death. She looks at the door. Nothing happens. Where's the guide with the key? I'm brave. I'll see what it does. I'll see what happens here. Where's the door? Key. Where's the guide? And then the human looks at the door closely and sees there is no doorknob. I want you to get this clear. The room is fake. You can't open it. It doesn't exist. The metaphor of the library and the room and the door, there is no death. Profound it is for you to see this, for the human to realize this in the vision. Death would mean that the soul does not exist, and it always does and always has and will forever. In the vision of metaphysical things and the truth, there is no death. There is no way to open the door. There's no way to unlock the door. It's something that doesn't exist. And if you could open it, it would be a brick wall. Are you getting this? More doors, more labels, more things to see. There's one called relationships. What could be in there? You already had the crystals to talk about what you've lived and what you've expressed, and you've had indication of how things went for you. You've had your past lives, all of these things. Science, history. It had to encompass relationships. So what could be behind this door? It gets better as it goes, doesn't it? Looks at the door, and out comes the guide. And this time the guide speaks. And the guide says, be ready for this. And unlocks the door. The human walks in, and the light goes with him, her. And inside, there's a party going on. And it's a party with everyone that human has ever been involved in all the lifetimes on the planet. The ones they've loved and lost, the ones they still know. It's almost like every soul was there. And they look young and they look beautiful. Just like they met them the first time. If it's a mother or a father from any lifetime, it's when they were young and beautiful with you as a child. If it's a spouse, it's when you married them. If it's a sister or a brother, is when you knew them as a child, and they're all there together, and the music is beautiful. And it's so emotional, because it's real. You see, there was no death. Are you getting this? There was no death. The room of relationships is a promise to you, dear human being. A promise, a reality that you should know is in your library. There's a party outside. One more door. It's an interesting door because this door becomes multidimensional and not necessarily understandable. And it's called future. The guide opens the door, the human goes in. The light is enormous, bigger than it ever has been when generated by the human in any other library. It's the biggest room of all. Enormous. But what makes it strange is it's totally and completely empty. Do you get the idea? It's empty because it hasn't been created. There are those in this room and listening to this channel that believe the future, even of this life they have now, is going to be filled with the same kinds of problems and strife that they've had all their life. It's not an empty room. It doesn't have them creating anything. They don't have the ability to understand that tomorrow is a blank page, and that you do not have to carry the burdens of yesterday into tomorrow. Or what you have today that makes you fearful, you can drop on the floor right now and walk into a light that is your creation for tomorrow, a new human that you are. The doors are shut. The light goes dim. The vision is over. Those of you who wish to analyze this will find stories within stories. Everything means something else. But let me tell you something that you probably have already gathered. The multidimensional human being that you are, in your own DNA, has this library existing. It is in you today. It is yours. And you don't need a vision to access it. This is the promise of the shift. The ones who seeded you finally were able to walk into this library themselves of their own, to see who they were, what they could do, how everything works. The physics of consciousness, the benevolence of belief, the beauty of compassion, as they walked through a society that eventually had no more war. A society that could see the God within and the God without until it finally merged. This is possible with this planet and this civilization because of the shift that has just occurred a few years ago. You are on the infancy, in the infancy, of something enormously grand that will develop over lifetime after lifetime. That is what has happened on this planet. This library inside you exists. Some of you, if you wish, may open any door. You don't need a guide. Dear ones, the guide was necessary in the old energy. The keys are yours. If you want to know really what happened, as you enter what we call the 11th civilization on this planet, you want to know really what happened in that shift in 2012? The whole setup of the nodes and the nulls, the magnetics, all of that gave you the keys to the library. It's here. It's inside you. It's magnificent. And it's discoverable in all of its pieces and parts. Which one are you going to go to first? Which one? You're all very different. You all have the issues that a human who is unique has. And each of you will decide, based upon this short little channel, which library room do you want to enter first? What do you need? And I will tell you, you've got a ring of keys for all the doors, except one. There is no death. The human body deteriorates and goes away. So does everything else. But you, the essence of you, is forever. You will have that room with you every single time you come here. It travels with you. The knowledge of everything is inside. Think about these words. Think about the vision. The library of self is in you now. It's not somewhere else. And you have the keys. I am Kryon in love with humanity. And so it is. Hi everybody, thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive. Greetings dear ones, I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. It has been mentioned that there are those who are unseen that know who you are, who are here, and I mean here. If you're a visitor listening to this later, here means here for you as well. This is a sacred space that you have decided to listen to. And if you continue listening, all of the energies that are in this room at the moment are yours as well. Humans, everyone, respected, honored, everyone. There is an entourage that doesn't just accompany me. It's an entourage that is developed from the various soul energies in the room. An entourage that comes to watch, honor, sometimes seemingly sit in your lap, knock on your nose, just to say, we're here, we're here, we're here. Years ago I said it, you're never alone. We mean this. It's impossible. Because of the system that is spiritual. The system, if you wish, of God. You come to a place and you finally understand and realize, number one, you're part of the system. Number two, you're here temporarily. This soul journeying that you do, you're here temporarily until the next journey in the next life, same soul. And so, dear ones, we're looking at ancients among you. And there is so much honor that you made it, that you've come, that you're here. We wish to extend the teaching from last week. Now, if you had no idea what that was, it's fine. We always start as though you don't, so that we can be complete. With those who would listen to one message, you wouldn't have to then listen to others. Last week, we introduced you to the concept of clearing that which we call your Akash. Now, let me define Akash yet again. And in order to do this, we always will do this. We posture this with great honor and respect for what it means. Inside you, human being, right now, there is an active record of everything you've ever done on this planet. Everything. It lands eventually in your DNA. As you reincarnate, the last lifetime is then included, and you come in with that fresh. Everything that you have ever experienced is there. And as we've taught before, it's not a linear representation as you would get in a book. The Akashic record is not about the activities of a human. It's about the energies. What was it like for you? Short lifetimes, long ones, various places of the planet, different cultures, different faces, different languages, different food. What was it like to be in the wars, to be a warrior and kill others, to be on the battlefield and be killed? All of you were. All of you. What's it like to be drowned? So many of you were. What's it like to lose children? And you would say that must be awful. It is. It still is. But when you come into a planet where every other child lives, you don't even name them till they're 3 months old. What's it like? What's it like to wake up and realize that you have information as an old soul that goes against that which is taught about God? Do you shut up or do you not? What's it like to be ostracized away from anyone else in the village, to live alone and only be kept alive because you have the magic, they think, because you have the intuition to keep them alive, perhaps some potions, some information from Gaia, the earth, to heal those around you. This is your life. This is who I talk to, old soul. What's it like for me to tell you there are civilizations you lived in you have no idea about? And yet your Akash carries them all. And the information that is in this multidimensional space of storage within every single human listening now, that information is profound with energy. What kind of energy is it? Well, it's remembered things. We've talked about this before. We've said the difference between the Akashic Records reaction and what it means 10 years ago and today is vastly different. That's what's changing. In an older energy, the Akashic Record comes up and it then gives you information of remembrance, and sometimes it's difficult. Why would that be? Kryon, why is the Akash so disturbing to some that we have to have readers help us to dismiss certain things in our memory? Keeps us awake at night. It's difficult to work with. Why would that be? What kind of a system does that? And here's the answer. It's a system of free choice. As goes the consciousness of the human being, goes the consciousness of remembrance of the Akash. You remember dramatic things. Things that go bump in the night. Things that you don't want to remember. Feelings you can't explain. That's been the way of it. Until now. Last week we gave you information and exercise, words if you wish, and reminded you of the power you have over your own body, and in this energy, the appropriateness of reframing the Akash. Demanding, in your own words, that the Akash stop remembering the negativity and the drama and start remembering the beauty. Remembering the good times, what it felt like for all of you as a woman to give birth. What it felt like for all of you as a man to watch it. The pride, the joy, the overwhelming beauty, the benevolence. It's there. It's all there. To command your Akash to stop with the old energy programs, the tapes that play, and instead give you something you didn't expect. Beautiful memories. It changes that residual buzzing in the background. We told you that. Now, where does it go from here? It may seem like we're going to skip around, but I'm going to tell you what has happened to the Akash, what it became. Now, the Akash has never changed, but human beings saw it and rewrote the rules. I'll tell you about that. So you have a bit of an understanding about the buzz that some of you have. But not before an update. There are those listening to this now who were there last week. There are those who not only participated in the exercise, but will listen to the channel and participate again. Those who have never heard of it will hear it the first time and participate. There will be thousands who will participate. There will be some who feel something, as I said. There will be some who don't. Because timing is everything. You are unique on this planet. There is never a time when we give you information of one esoteric pill does one thing for everybody. It doesn't. It doesn't. Some of you must work at it and work into it, must do it a number of times if you wish. Although I'll tell you, the body hears it the first time. Oh, it hears it. Hears it and starts working on it, even though you don't think it does. Here's an update. There are some of you, not necessarily in this audience, but the ones hearing me now, who've had some interesting dreams all of a sudden. A dream that would put you back into circumstances that were uncomfortable. Circumstances that made you less than. Putting you back into a time when there was betrayal. Putting you back into uncomfortable work situations or things that happened. And you're put back in the dream, and there they are happening again. And you wake up in the morning and you'll say, this isn't really what I had hoped for. And now I have what they call a bad taste in my mouth for the whole day because that dream was so real. I didn't need to go back and feel that all again. Oh, yes, you did. And here's why, because that was your closure. You had to go back. You had to look it in the face. Sometimes there are things you never wanted to look at. Some of you are not done yet. This is the Akashic record at its best. It's the Akashic record for this lifetime at its best. Things that have happened to you that you go back and revisit. In the Akash, a drowning, a death, or a time perhaps on the battlefield where you took a life and it stuck with you for ages, and suddenly here comes the dream and you just feel awful. You'll say, I just killed somebody and I feel it all over. It's the worst thing that ever happened to me. I couldn't do that, but I did it. I could feel it. Or I was just killed. Or I drowned. Whatever it was. Then you'll wonder, what is the appropriateness of that? I'll tell you, it's a closure. It means it's gone. That's what it means. And if you're one who had one of those dreams, congratulations. It's working. Do you see how this works? It's working. You have to go there because you didn't want to face it. Even in a dream. You have to go there and be uncomfortable for a moment in a dream. Doesn't hurt you. But for those moments, the Akash is working with you to say, in order to dismiss this, you got to look at it. And you are, many of you. And in the looking at it, there is full and complete clearing. It's not coming back. Not coming back. This is the power you have today, and we talked about it last week. I want to talk about the Akash. It's beautiful. What a system. It's a system of remembrance. Can you imagine opening an Akashic book with one page? One page is everything you've ever done. Because it's multidimensional, the one page is thousands of volumes of energy that are multidimensional. They come flying out. They go all over the walls and the ceiling. They're not in order. They don't have to be. And you look at the ones that are different colors because they have different energies. Can you imagine going back and seeing who you were, what you've accomplished? Do you think that there's a measurement in the Akashic record, not of horror, but of beauty? Do you think there's a measurement of wisdom? How much did you learn? And how would you like to have that presented to you today, so that you can walk from place to place and not make the same mistakes, so you can know when someone's telling you the truth, when you can feel when you get up in the morning a benevolence that says, this is a good day. It's a good day because I'm here. It's a good day because the sacredness in me sees the sacredness in Gaia. It's a good day because I know my ancestors. It's a good day because those who interface with me today will also feel it. And it may be as simple as you and your children. They'll feel it. You and somebody at work, they'll feel it. This is the difference between human beings who are always affected by the noise, the buzz, that in the Akash, which is always there, that has always kept you away from the magnificence that you deserve. And we dealt with it last week. I'll tell you what happened in history. The Akashic record has been with you since the seeding of the Pleiadians. When you started receiving the sacred information from the very, very top, either original or you got it from an ancestor, and you started to awaken with spiritual knowledge. The old souls of this planet have always had it. You are the ones that hold this information. It's beautiful and it's simple. You came from the stars. You came from that which is God. You're seen by God as beautiful. And the God that you were introduced to, the Spirit, if you wish, the creative source, if you wish, was so far above any consciousness that you have ever seen on this planet that you can't describe it. Pure love. Pure love. Shining brighter than anything you can ever imagine. All it is pure love and compassion. So beautiful that when you return to the other side of the veil, you're part of it. You wash in the beauty of the song that plays that makes your heart sing with it. That's God. I can't even give you anything bigger. You wouldn't see it. You wouldn't understand it. That's God. Human beings began to evolve. Systems started. One of the first systems in this civilization you call Hinduism. We have spoken of this even in India, where we, for the first time, reveal things. This was the original system approach, later becoming that with Buddha. But it featured something. The Hindu system was profitless, right to the source. You didn't go through anyone. Nobody had to do anything. There was an acknowledgement of oneness with everything. There still is today. But the Akashic record developed into something different. Enter karma. Karma is a direct derivative of the Akashic energy. Things that happen to you that then lay energy in certain ways that invite you to clear them. And the system would invite you to clean up that which you didn't want and work with other entities of Hinduism that would help you clear negativity to the point where you did not have the karma anymore. You could clear it. You could go to a place where you were in full enlightenment because you did not have any more karma. Now, dear ones, do you find that interesting that that's exactly what we did last week? It was a system of clearing the Akash. It is there yet today. When I arrived 29 years ago, one of the first things I taught you is that karma worked then, it's no longer needed. You don't have to remember any of these things. It's automatic. Karmic clearing is automatic. Akashic clearing. We told you, you don't need to be pushed around by any energies. At this point in your life, in the spiritual system, karma is no longer needed. That's controversial. But look at who you are today. You're coming in with full knowledge. You don't need things to push and pull you around to learn lessons. You're beyond that. And you come in clean, ready to go to work with that bracelet on we talked about this morning. You've got other things to do besides work with karma. Even this day, there are those who say, what do I do about the karma? Even after I've said, you don't have it. You don't have to worry about it. There are those who will argue. I want you just to look at yourself and say, do I need it? Really? At this point in my spirituality as an old soul in this new energy, does it hurt me or help me? Does it hinder my path? Does it enhance me? You make up your own mind. Don't you find it interesting that it was converted into a system that then became karmic? Now, what happens next is really, really interesting. Because now certain systems, over thousands of years, begin to morph the whole idea. I want to introduce you to the human concept of sin. Now you have something where you start humanizing the system. Humanizing is the word we mean that you reduce all of the parts of the system to fit within what you are, to be that which is human nature. As long ago as you wish, as the Greeks, before sin, they made their gods dysfunctional in order for the mythology of punishment to start. That then graduates and graduates, and finally you have a God who looks at you and judges you for your behavior. Sin is supposed to be defined as anything that displeases God. And I have something to tell you that you may or may not grasp at this point. God is not a human. There is nothing like displeasing, pleasing with the creative source of the universe. It's pure love. It doesn't think like you do. It doesn't have the constructs like you do. There is not even the beginning of a consciousness that would even be close to what you have. Not even close. And yet, you have developed a system, a beautiful love of God, and at the same time, you've made God a bad father. Let me ask you, yet again, would any of you take a child, no matter what they've done, and throw them into a place where they're going to be burned alive for eternity? Which one of you parents will raise your hand and say, well, yeah, they've done some bad stuff, that's what they deserve? And there's not one of you. There's not one of you. And yet you place that on the creative source. Yep, that sure is the way God works, you say. No, it isn't. The entire construct of sin and punishment developed completely and totally from the human mind. A human being's construct put upon the Almighty, creator of the universe. Does not work that way. There were no wars in heaven. And all of this literally coming from the Akashic record. Because the Akashic record has certain energies that when you morph these systems will create guilt. Now you are sorry for what you did that you feel in your Akashic record. It's getting worse, isn't it? Now you sit there and you don't know what to think. If God is real, is God displeased with who I am? I had a dream the other night. I'm not sure what it means, but I'm quite sure I did something wrong. That's why I had the dream. I'm afraid. I'm not doing this or that right or wrong. Never understanding at that moment in time. This is a derivative of that which is your Akashic record. The energies of your record literally were then converted into karma, then converted into sin and punishment. All these same reactions and feelings then getting lower and lower in a consciousness state to bring you to your knees, human being, where you're afraid of God. Afraid. There's an oxymoron here. It doesn't even make sense that you would bring yourself to a place where you would fear that which was inside you, which is the most benevolent, gorgeous, loving thing that ever could be there. Talked into it, trained into it. This may offend some. That is not the purpose. The purpose is to reveal and enlighten, to open the box, to unseal a grander truth, that there is no judgment with a God that created you out of love. Where is it going next? What's going to happen? Revelation on the planet? Compassion is coming? Reframing and rewriting some of these things that I've just told you. That's what's going to happen. I know this because I've seen it before. I bring you this history to show you where this has come from, what has become it. These wonderful secrets that you had, literally, as a Lemurian, some of you, from the original teaching wheel, had to go underground, not be taught, only be kept. Secret societies you think today are conspiracies. They're only ones who have kept the secrets of what you learned in Lemuria. And in this new energy, they're starting to pop out. You're going to see organizations start to reveal what they know, and they're going to be Metaphysics 101. You're going to start creating organizations yourself to teach these things openly, not in secret. And I remind you, it's one of the first times you've been able to do this without something coming after you or being shut down or worse. There are some who are still afraid to come out of the closet. Closet light workers. They don't want to come out of the closet because the last time they did it was awful. And now it won't be. Now I'm going to give you another concept just to make it really confusing. If you're going to become a bit more multidimensional, dear ones, you're going to now have to deal with a different kind of attribute in your Akash. Stand by. So let me reveal, again, the summary, that in this new energy, as bad as it has become, the systems that gave you these things will start to be more enlightened in their approach. They will start to see that it's not commensurate with the love they teach. There will be a lightening of the load. Rules will change slightly, as they have over the eons and decades. It'll start happening again. There will be a return to one of the original ideas that God is inside of every single human. And the respect of that will be seen as primary, no matter who they are or what they believe. That's what they'll have in common. This starts a world that will pull itself out of where they are and have no more war. That's the summary. Now let me tell you something you need to deal with. There is the idea, this train of time you're on is going to create a train which is completely then enlightened, beautiful, clean, clear, ready to move forward in the light with brand new information. Now here, I'm going to tell you something because there will be those who will ask this later when that doesn't happen for them. This is accelerated, advanced information about your Akashic record that you will have to deal with in the ways that you will have presented to you, and also we will talk about in the future. Time is in a circle. Always has been. times in a circle. Imagine a railroad track. You are on that track as a train, as a human being, a human train, and you are chugging along on that train. You can go as fast as you or slow as you want, but the train doesn't back up. It always goes into the future. That track is always ahead of you, and what's behind you is what you've done. Now that's how you see it. Now I want you to add a little wrinkle to that. That track goes all around the planet. Forget for a moment that you can't put a track on the ocean. Just pretend. And then that means that eventually your future becomes your past. Are you with me so far? Because you're going to start running over the same track in front of you that is your past. And what is it exactly in your past? It's etched in stone in your Akashic record. And whether it includes one civilization or two, it doesn't matter. The concept is this: you're going to meet your Akash in the future. Some of you won't understand what it is and consider that everything you've done has failed because here it is again. Others of you will recognize that, aha, this is a fractal in time. It is laying on the track because the track remembers what happened. And instead of me absorbing it and taking it on and having to do all this again, we're going to clear it as we go. We're going to expect it to be there. And we're going to see it and we're going to clear it before it ever shows up. Is this too complex? As my partner explained it as I've given it to him, these are the questions that only the future will answer. I've just given you something that's valuable so you won't think you failed, dear ones. Because those of you who have cleared and gone to this place where you say, my Akash is no longer there to irritate me and the benevolence is only there, and suddenly there's something negative. This is the 3D human in the past who will say, see, it didn't work. Then you reveal you didn't expect it to work. And then you reveal, and then you reveal. State of mind, how much you cognize these ideas. I'm telling you that there are things on the track in front of you for you and the planet and all these things that will appear, and you will think it's a return to the past, and it isn't. It's something that you're going to have to look at and say, I recognize this. This is old energy. Get away from me. You're not going to go through this again. Give it a name. Put it away. That's coming because you are now covering the same track again that laid those eggs of the Akash that you cleared. Will there come a time, Kryon, when we can clear all of the Akash, including what's on the front of the train? That's an Akashic clearing that would be past, present, and future. That is more complicated. And that's the next step. I'm telling you about this so you won't be surprised. There will be coming processes to help you. But as you understand it, when it comes at you, you won't be confused. You won't think you did something wrong. You won't go back into guilt. And you'll look at it and go, Kryon said it was here. And here it is. And you can laugh. Because it'll disappear as soon as you recognize what it is. It's a past karma that's in front of your train that you cleared. Therefore, it's a phantom. We'll even give it a name. Beware of phantom karma. Beware of phantom Akash. All of that from your past might show up. Just remember this time and call it what it is. This is a complex channel. It's something that you may want to listen to. It's something that you may want to revisit. Just to hear these words. I'm about ready to close. those invisible ones are still here. I want you to feel them for just a moment, and such congratulations to you. If they could put their arms around you, you could feel it. You'd feel so much love. You did it. And they would give you a message and say, don't fear the future. They'd give you a message that say, cast the old fears away. They're not going to come back. It's a brand new path, one that you've never trod before, one without predictions. You're going to lay the track that's never been laid before. That's what it's like. These are the things I have for this day. These are the things for you. And so it is.